So you can hear me? Okay. Let's see. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance like we always do. If everyone would join us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have the roll call, please, Denise?
Chairwoman Patricia King,
Here.
Vice Chair Margaret Byrne,
Here.
Jim McGowan,
Here.
Dennis Granilotti,
Here.
Hazel Turner.
Here.
Okay. As always, we have an opportunity for public to present to the board any comments regarding anything that's on the agenda. And if you'd like to speak, please come up to the front and give us your name and your address, please.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Hi, my name is Justin Paquita, and I live on 80 Raymond Road. Ms. Chattis opened a new way for me on technology. She taught us how to use advanced programs on the laptops. I remember 3D printing a black dice that we created on the programs. She wants her students to improve and succeed. She makes sure everyone understands it before going on to the next step to make it fun for everyone. Additionally, she taught us how to use varied advanced cameras and how different modes did different things based on the lighting and the place we took the photos. She also showed us how to make t-shirt designs. Her class helps people find their hobbies or people who are already interested. It helps them grow with the knowledge of technology because technology is the future of this society. She is also my track and field coach. Every day she pushes us to the limits to make sure we do our best at her meets. She taught me blocks, how to pass and receive a baton, form when running, and high jump. She most importantly showed me how to never give up, even if we feel like we are at our breaking point.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Ella Kushan, and I live on 51 Acorn Drive. Not only was Ms. Chattis a helping and fun teacher, she was my soccer coach and my current track and field coach. I remember starting school soccer in 7th grade, and she noticed my potential and knew doing track would suit me best. I started off with indoor track, then outdoor track my freshman year, and I just completed my 2nd year of indoor track, and I'm so excited for the spring season. Ms. Chattis taught me everything I needed to know about running: positioning, how to use blocks, how to receive a baton, and how to never give up to the point of as a sophomore and 7th best sophomore out of the Class S, but I couldn't have done it without her. Freshman year, I was forced into a relay race for an anchor. I was scared because I pretty much had no idea what I was doing, but she was there for me near the lane, pushing me to go faster. Since then, Ms. Chattis has been pushing me every race and every practice. She always asked how I was feeling before and after every single race. She taught me to never give up. Her same work ethic and coaching also applies to the students in her classroom. I had her in 6th grade for tech ed, and although the work was challenging, Ms. Chattis helped us to understand the materials and steps by scaffolding the steps to reach our end goal. In order to construct a 3D dice, we had to plan, measure, and design the shapes, which required the use of computer programming. And I still remember the excitement of the third 3D printer as it printed out what I had to constructed. It was one of those moments in my middle school years that stood out to me, and to this day I still have the dice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Is it being broadcast? Is there an issue with the meeting? I don't know if it's streaming. I don't know if the meeting is streaming. Is that a problem?
Is the meeting streaming? You're zooming though, right? those at home that have logged into Zoom can see it.
Yeah.
With the stream, does it run again? Like people can go back and watch it?
Okay, okay. It will be available from,
Well, she might get it, we'll see.
yeah, okay. Okay. So next thing on the
Any other-
agenda is the approval of,
Any other public comment?
I asked, is there any other public comments? I'm talking right into the microphone. No? Can you hear it now?
Yes.
Okay, I will speak much louder. Thank you.
Amy Mackey, 205 Montemurro Avenue. I sent you all an email a couple weeks ago about the gifted and talented coordinator position that's being eliminated. To give you some background, myself personally, I've been fighting for this position since my son was in 4th grade. He's now in 9th grade. The reason I was fighting for it is because of the fact he was so bored in his classroom. He needed something challenging and stimulating. So we went through the process a few times. Each of a time we went up and it got cut from the budget. But it was a relief when Ms. Yambor finally came and was able to help these kids get what they needed. I can't tell you how much he's benefited from having this for him. And even though he's in high school, he still needs to be challenged in order to use his mind and his talents the way that he's not able to in a traditional classroom environment. This is a position that you guys wholeheartedly approved a couple years ago. And to get rid of it now doesn't make any sense to me. Eliminating this position is not for the betterment of the students, it is a detriment. And I hope you will reconsider your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello,
Hi.
Kylie Christensen, 103 Michelle Drive. So I know a lot of folks here are, tonight are here to talk about the budget cuts that have been proposed for the coming school year. And while I know many of us are in support of Ms. Chattis and Ms. Yambor, I want to take it outside of the actual teacher and look at it from the position. I have a senior at Windsor Locks High, and I know that the concept or idea is that enrichment will be given in the classroom. That doesn't always happen. And that's at no fault of the teachers. I think if you take a look at the classroom, dynamics, you'll see that in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, class dynamics have changed dramatically. So you might have an honors classroom, and the skill set range within that classroom is much greater than it has been in the past. And as a result, it puts a lot more demand on the teachers that teach those classes. So every teacher, and I believe this with my whole heart, in Windsor Locks wants every child in their classroom to succeed. Unfortunately, given just time constraints, it's not always a possibility. So what I want to plead to the board is to really consider keeping the enrichment programs, the STEM program, the one that Ms. Chattis, and the enrichment program that Ms. Yambor head up and work with these students on. Because I fear that it's going to have an impact. In the short term, sure, the kids are going to miss those teachers and miss those programs, but in the longer term, it's going to really impact the kids that have benefited from having those extras. So you can't hire more teachers to perhaps spread that, enrichment piece out within the classroom. We can't get rid of the positions that we have already in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Caden Mackey. I live at 205 Montemurro Avenue. So I've been a part of Mrs. Yambor's enrichment team for now 2 years, starting in the middle school in my 8th grade year, and I'm a freshman in the high school. It's definitely opened up many opportunities for me as a student. This year, I'm working with 2 other people to actually build a full functioning rocket, which we just launched. It went about 250 feet. It has opened up so many like different opportunities, and while we do have other programs in the high school, such as AP courses and honors courses, that's only like a small section. But with this class that we take enrichment during Radar Block, it can expand our horizons to so many things, and I just think it'd be a mistake to punish the kids that are higher than everyone else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? There'll be another opportunity at the end for public input. Okay, at this point, approval of the minutes for February 8th, 2020. We've had a chance to review them prior to the meeting, so are there any comments?
Just one on page 5 of the minutes. It says 0.5 string, and it should say 0.5 strings.
Okay, is there a motion?
Oh, I would move acceptance. I'd move acceptance of the February 8th, 2020 minutes of the special meeting as amended.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Approved. Okay, now it's time to discuss the budget reductions. Mr. Parkhurst?
Sure, thank you. So I'm glad to see everybody here. I know there have been a few different opportunities for people to be engaged in the budget process, both from 2 Saturday workshops and last Thursday's Board of Ed meeting, as well as people being able to Zoom in as well. So Jesse, I don't know how many people we have actually watching virtually, 15. So I'm glad to have so many people involved in this. If you follow along with the pink packet, that is the PowerPoint that I'll be going through this evening for the board to reach a decision on the fiscal year 2021 budget as proposed. So just to kind of get everybody back to speed, if you haven't been involved, or even if you have, I apologize for the repeat, but I think it's important to paint the picture of what this budget does provide. Hearing a lot of information from those that just spoke, I think a lot of this will ring true. So the backdrop of all of the budget proceedings and deliberations are around the vision of the graduate. What do we want our students of Windsor Locks to know and be able to do when they leave our school district? We want them to be creative and practical problem solvers. We want them to be clear and effective communicators. We want them to be informed thinkers. We want them to be a self-directed learner, and you heard Caden talk about that. We want them to be a collaborative worker and a responsible citizen. So that's the backdrop that you should have the lens as you look through this budget. With that in mind, and I know you've seen this before, just so that everyone is aware of the board's responsibility in the budget process, there are 4 main tasks for you to keep in mind. One is that you're providing adequate instructional materials. That includes staffing, equipment, materials, supplies, facilities, technology. A lot of information there. The second one is to make sure that you're keeping in mind equitable allocation among all of our schools and our campuses. The third one is that we're ensuring that there's proper maintenance of our facilities, again, throughout the district. And what I would call to be the most important, that we're ensuring that there's a safe school setting for all of our staff, as well as our students and our families. So my responsibility in the budget process is to bring you a budget that I feel is fiscally responsible, that ensures that equitable and developmental appropriate educational experiences among all of our schools, that it fulfills on the state mandates, and you've seen that before. There's over 1,200 of those mandates, some partially funded, some none not funded at all, and also that it allows for advancement of the Board of Education goals. That fourth one is probably the most challenging when you think about a fiscal responsibility and advancement of the goals. So keep that in mind. So speaking of our 4 district goals, again, you've seen this before, but I think it is important to note, because it does set the stage, that we are looking that all of our learners are challenged to achieve, grow, and demonstrate mastery, that we're using research-based practices, that we're supporting every student through a network of caring adults, and you heard some reference to that in the public comment, and that we're providing a positive, equitable, safe, and healthy climate. So with that, what does our enrollment look like? So you can look at the projection for 2020. Overall, you can see our enrollment is pretty much holding steady, with a slight decrease of approximately 10 students predicted in 2020. So not a whole lot you can do in terms of thinking about staffing, in terms of enrollment. When we think about changing needs of our population, this shows you what has happened over the last few years in terms of our special education enrollment. We've had a 22% increase over the last 5 years, and you know that comes at a cost, both in terms of materials, resources, and staffing. So the first budget that I brought to you, again, for people that are new to this process, I think it's important that when you look at the budget that we're currently in, our fiscal year 1920 adopted budget was $31,380,043. Our initial fiscal year 2021 budget that we brought to you proposed was $33,668,472, which represented an increase of slightly over $2.2 million. What's important for you to note, I think, in that $2.2 million proposed increase is the number that's circled. That is the number that we have any flexibility with. So you can see that's $78,146 of the $2.2 million. The other two numbers below that are salary increases and non-salary obligations. So things that we are obligated by contract and have no control over those dollar amounts. Some actions that you've taken throughout the process. Our January Board of Ed workshop, the board did reinstate the 2.0 housekeepers that were reduced in the budget, a 0.5 strings teacher at the elementary, and an additional third grade teacher. Those 3 items equated to a total dollar amount of $118,881 that got put back into the budget, so restored back from the January workshop. That brought the proposed budget to $33,787,353. At the February 13th meeting, which was last week, the Board of Ed meeting, you approved a set of Tier 1 reductions totaling $870,130. And those are your green sheet. I think you got those at the last meeting, and they're not in this meeting's packet because they were approved. They're not part of this. They were part of the last meeting. And we can go through those if there are questions. That brought the revised proposed budget to $32,917,223, which represented a 4.9 increase over the current budget that we're in. Since that time, there were some staff reductions on that green sheet. You'll look at the bottom. We have realized that there's an additional savings for benefits that equate to $118,118, which brings the budget to currently where we sit today at a 4.5% increase. That's what I'm recommending as the superintendent, keeping in mind my responsibility is to bring you a budget that is fiscally responsible, promotes the goals of our district, and ensures all of those things that we've talked about for many, many times, but also that you saw on the screen earlier. So with that, just to summarize, this is what the budget recommendation is. That you would approve this evening a recommended fiscal year 2021 budget that's revised at $32,799,105, which represents a $1.4 million increase over the current budget, which represents a 4.5% increase. So I'll stop there for board questions or deliberation.
Board comments?
Just to clarify, the reinstated 2.0 housekeeper, the 0.5 strings, and the 1.0 grade 3, those all came back out again on the green sheet.
That's
Yes?
correct. Yes, yes, that is correct.
So is there a recommendation to go into the Board of Finance with a 4.5% increase? We had discussion at the last meeting that wanted the budget reduced further. Do you still feel that way as a board?
Just pull it a little closer.
At the last meeting, last Thursday, there was discussion of how do we want to go into the Board of Finance? Was it we had originally said 4.9, but now it's 4.5. Do we want to go into the Board of Finance with a 4.5% increase, leaving everything the way it is there? Can you hear that? Okay, that's fine.
And just can I just elaborate? Just keeping in mind that 4.5 represents all of the tier 1 reductions that you took action on at the last meeting.
Right. What's the board's pleasure?
I think we've got to talk about some of the things on this yellow sheet, what the impact is.
Into the mic.
I think we have to talk about other items on the yellow sheet and find out what the impact is.
You want to start?
At 20,000 for music.
Mm-hmm. So will be a new higher cost savings. That's what the $20,000 represents. And let me just advance to the next slide so people know what we're talking about there. So that $20,000 savings for a new hire would bring the budget, if you adopted that reduction, that would bring it to a 4.4. So you can see on the far right-hand side, I kept a running percentage, so you can kind of see at what level you're comfortable with as a board. So that would bring it to 4.4.
Food service unemployment?
Sherry or Charmaine? Yeah. Yep. Sherry or Charmaine, do you want to talk to that a little bit? Just pull the mic.
That's in anticipation of privatization, but at this point, that's not, I don't see that that's going to move forward.
So that's an actual reduction that we feel pretty comfortable putting into the list for you. Again, that would be 44,330, which would bring it to 4.3%.
But if we left the funds in the budget, stayed at the 4.5,
Mm-hmm.
could we bring back one of the teachers' positions that the public was talking about?
Yes, just to give you an example, the gifted and talented teacher, which was one of the ones that you heard, equates to 48,616. So it's not quite the same amount, but it's close. And let me find the other one. The science and technology teacher that you heard reference is 68,214. So those two combined are about 116,000. I'm looking at Charmaine because I don't have my calculator with me.
You also took benefits off of that.
True. Benefits would also be, we would need to add those back into.
Those benefits are part of that 118,
The benefits are
118.
part of that 118, which was the approved staff reductions that you took at the last meeting. So that would reduce that 118.
Science position?
Sure.
That
So
would-
that one is a retirement, and that you can see not filling that position equates to approximately 99,947. That includes salary and benefits. That reduction would bring us to a 4.0% increase. The impact of that would be some shifting around in terms of who teaches what at the high school. There also is the possibility of more students not having the opportunity to be in certain classes, which could result in more students in study hall. And Carrie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. I think I've captured pretty much what we've talked about.
And might that impact the mandatory testing too?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. That's why this slide and even the next slide, or if you look at your yellow sheet, those are not my recommendations because they all have significant impact on people, our students, staffing, our community, and in my mind, they don't move us forward in terms of our goals, and in some cases, they set us back, in most of them.
There's one position listed for Pine Meadow lead teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What is the impact of that?
Whoops, sorry, let me go back one.
She's the one that resigned?
So the Pine Meadow, that is a teacher that has resigned. So in working with Josh and his staff, that is a position that we would not fill. The impact of that would be back to what we had last year that you might know. Obviously, Josh wears many, many hats, and it would be an added responsibility on his part. We would also have a couple staff members, as we have in the past, that would have some added responsibilities built into their work for an additional stipend. Josh, do you want to say anything more about Pine Meadow in terms of the impact?
And then there was a special education teacher that,
So that also is a retirement. There would be a shift from one of the elementary schools to the other. So the impact would be we wouldn't be growing the particular ABA program at one school. And Josh, do you want to speak any more specifically about that reduction?
Will you speak to the summer program?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead. I was just going back to it.
I guess what I'm asking is, could we go in at the 4.5 and include the gifted and talented teacher and the STEM by making other reductions in positions?
Charmaine, can you just calculate the benefits for both those so I just know the total amount?
Did you do 32%?
I did 30.
Did you 30%?
Yeah. So Margaret, to answer your question, we'll just get the dollar figure of what that would total. We would need to have reduced somewhere else to go in, to continue to go in at 4.5. Just hold
Right.
on a second.
What other positions would add up to the 118,000? Basically what we need to know.
Well, if you, depending on what that total is, if you didn't fill the high school science position retirement and the general music savings for a new hire, you'd be close to, what is that, 119, 118 right there. I don't know what the total is for those two positions with benefits. We're getting that.
My only concern about that is we're not strong in science, so I hate to eliminate a science position.
The other thing to keep in mind, and I know you know this because you've heard it while they're calculating out, is it may look like there's a lot of staff pieces here. Over the last few years, supplies have dwindled. We've taken almost as much as we possibly can from supplies year after year after year. So, and even we've done that even with this year, looking at consolidating some of our vendors, looking at ink costs, we've looked at specific line items and reduced almost to bare bones that what you're looking at, again, people that are new to this process and not seeing this until tonight, it may look like a lot of positions, but please know that a lot of the other reductions have already occurred to get us even to this point.
I think if we look at the history for the last 4 or 5 years, we see that for 3 years we went in with a 0% increase, and it's catching up to us.
Yeah, and I'll go back to that slide that in the proposed increase of 2.2 million, there's really only $78,000 that is not committed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm just trying to keep up. 151, 879.
So 151,879, we would need to add those two positions back in. We would need to find 150.
1,879.
Thank you, 151,879 in other reductions to stay at 4.5.
So would that be?
So if you took the top three there,
That would be Josh's two.
or you could take, oh, go ahead, Jim.
If you took Josh's two positions, would that?
The special ed teacher and the,
And the PMA leader, put them in as a reduction
to bring back enrichment and STEM. Yes, that would total it. Mhm. Yep.
I'm really concerned with eliminating a special ed teacher, especially due to some of the difficulties we've had recently.
Yeah, I agree. I don't agree with cutting the South special ed teacher. I don't think that's the right move. Considering some of the increases we're seeing both on that slide and then just, of course, anecdotally as well. I just don't think that is a wise direction to go in. Yeah.
If we were to go in with a 4.9, so that's not taking a reduction for the 118, does that allow us, well, that's only 118, so we'd still be a
You
little
need
bit short.
150,
Yeah.
151 something, 879? Yeah. The other option is if you look at the top three there, food service and employment, the science position, again, it's a trade-off of science or special ed. Those are close to the same amount of money. They're not exactly, but if you add those top three together, you're at about 150, what is that, 159, something like that? No, more than that, 144, 164. You would be almost there and still be at 4.5. Putting those positions back in and eliminating the top three there. And again, keep in mind, those are, even though we know it's an impact at the high school in terms of science, there is no one in any of those top three that would be losing their position. So one is a retirement,
Sure.
The other one would be a new hire.
My opinion would be to reduce the list down to the two special ed rows at the bottom with the special education teacher at South, and then of course the pension, all that goes with that, and come in at a 3.66.
So you're saying, just Paige, just so I'm clear,
Mhm.
you would take the first, I know yours is on one sheet, but the first slide plus the first one on the second slide, the PMA lead teacher?
Yeah.
To be at 3.6?
Yep.
And just so I'm clear, that doesn't, and not reinstate enrichment or STEM?
Right.
correct? Okay. So it sounds like there's a motion there, potentially.
Is that a motion?
Sure. I move to, how would I word it, reduce the budget, including, or to 3.66 with the reduction of the, do I need to list all of them?
All of these, yeah, you'd have to.
With
list
the,
them.
sure, with the reduction of, or with the elimination of the insurance pension tax savings from tier one staff reductions. Yep. Yep, so I move to come in at a 3.66% increase with the reduction of, or the further reduction of the insurance pension tax savings from tier one staff reductions, the savings from general music teacher, food services unemployment, the elimination of the science position insurance pension tax savings, the substitute paraeducators, the summer academy paras, the summer tutors, and the elimination of the PMA lead teacher.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Can we check numbers? So
On,
if I proposed we went with a 4.9, but you're still going to eliminate the savings for the general music teacher and the food service unemployment, does that give me the 151 to reinstate the,
so if you go at
Talented and gifted.
4.9, so you're saying add back in 118 plus 44, somebody have a calculator there? 118 plus 44, yes, that would give you the 159 and then
and
some.
does that sound that works at a 4.9?
That would be
a
4.9.
increase. But some of that 118 has to go back in for the talented and gifted and the STEM teachers' benefits?
Yes. Well, the one, you're saying 4.9 with reinstating those two positions or not?
And reinstating those two positions.
That brings it to 5 something, doesn't it?
So we would need, so that 118 includes other positions.
Correct.
So it wouldn't, we can't take the full 118. So it'd be 64 plus,
Well, those were, 118 came out of the
that was
tier
the
one
tier one
reductions.
reduction. Charmaine, if you just tell me what was the benefit part of gifted and talented and STEM? Because we can subtract that from the 118 to get the total.
It is. $35,049.
So 118 minus 35,000 gives you about what?
83,069.
83, so 103 plus 44, 147. You'd be short about 12,000. 159, was that the amount?
151
151.
or 152. I mean,
So rounded to 152. Okay.
it's not exact.
So you'll be short about 7,000-ish.
So it's the 151,879 minus the 83,069. 68,930.
Which, Margaret, you could make that up. If it's, is it 7,000? Is that about the difference to get to the 159? Did you guys figure that?
No, the 151,879 would be the total to reinstate gifted
Yup.
and talented.
The 118, the 118 minus the benefits.
83,069. So the difference between the 151 and the 83,069 is 68,931.
And that's 64. Another way to get there, Margaret, would be to do those first two, the general music and the food service unemployment, and to take the substitute para, summer academy, and summer tutors. That would get you there. And that would be a 4.9 with reinstating those two positions, STEM and enrichment, and reducing general music teacher savings, food service unemployment, substitute paras, summer academy paras, and summer tutors. That would be a 4.9.
So you said substitute educators, summer,
Academy paras and summer
summer tutors.
tutors. Those three plus the general music and the food service.
so that's the motion I would like to make, would be a 4.9 budget, allowing the superintendent and his finance director to work out the details of to which we'd have to cut, but we're looking at the general music, food service unemployment, substitute para educators, summer academy paras, and summer tutors to allow us to add back in talented and gifted and the STEM teacher positions that were cut under tier 1.
Is there a second to the motion?
Are we still eliminating the lead teacher?
No, that was not in the
I didn't-
motion.
I didn't put that in the motion because I think Josh spoke to the fact that those are two positions that he does rely upon.
Any second? If there's no second, I'll second it for discussion.
And what is that, a 4.9?
4.9.
The only thing I have a problem with the 4.9. I have no problem with. Keep talking like that. I have a problem with the 4.9% increase, but I don't have a problem with the items that are being put in. Is there anything else? Not necessarily, I mean, not even on this list.
So I can speak to, we have spent central office time, we've spent leadership time going through. There really, I mean, other things that we put on here would be additional staff reductions, which, as we know, will have an impact. Are they possible? Yes, anything's possible, but it comes at an expense, not just dollars. It's going to come at an expense to our kids, to our families, and to our community. So are there things that could go on there? Absolutely. I wouldn't recommend them based on, again, my responsibilities of bringing you a budget that moves the Board of Education goals forward, but also is fiscally responsible.
I am just fearful of what happens if we are given a very large cut after we present this budget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just fearful.
I'm concerned too about being cut, which is why I think it's responsible to go with the 4.9, because we have a very clear picture of what we would have to cut and what we would be giving up if we aren't allotted a 4.9% increase.
The
I think
other
the
the other
work-
thing to keep in mind, and I hate to go harp on it, but if you go back to the board's responsibility in the budget process, is we can be fearful of further reductions, but I don't think that's what you should be thinking about. I get your point, but I think you should be thinking about what is the budget that we are going to put forward, or you're going to put forward and approve, that again provides for adequate support, adequate materials, resources, facilities for our students, that promotes that safe environment, that promotes equitable allocation across all campuses. You got to keep that in mind, and I appreciate the worry about further reductions, but I would argue that your role is to put a budget forward that you feel promotes what we want for all of our kids in the community, and I think the support that's here tonight kind of speaks volumes to that.
Any further discussion? Okay. Want to vote on the 4.9?
we can't go on afraid or on what ifs. We're already, you can't assume what they're gonna do.
What were our instructions?
0.
0. A long way to 4.9 from there.
Zero's not realistic.
Okay, but when we, as a group, decided on 3.0,
And at that time, as a ballpark, we didn't know what types of eliminations would be included in that.
That's right.
I could deal with 3.5, but not 4.9.
Well, Madam Chair, are we going to vote on the motion?
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll go in with 4 point.
I didn't hear Paige or Dennis vote.
Okay.
Paige, did you? I didn't think so. Okay.
No.
So the vote is 3-2. So we'll go in with a 4.9
4.9 with those
with those
two positions
changes.
added back and those reductions that you referenced in the motion. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. King, I would suggest that the people, the parents and others who support what this board has just approved for a budget, that they go to the Board of Finance when we present it that night and let the Board of Finance know how they feel.
I agree, and there was going to be a shout out to all parents for that night. I said we had planned to send a note to all parents or a shout out electronically or telephone, voicemail to all parents to be sure and try to come to that board meeting, the Board of Finance meeting.
The comment from the audience was to repeat what you just motioned, though, because they didn't hear it.
Repeat what we
Oh,
motioned?
the motion.
Okay, the motion.
The motion was to submit a budget at a 4.9% increase, which will be reallocating funds, such as a savings in the general music teacher, food service unemployment, substitute para-educators, summer academy paras, and summer tutors to free up funds to reinstate the talented and gifted teacher and the STEM teacher, which were part of the Tier 1 eliminations the other day. So we're going to be submitting a budget of $32,917,223.
I really encourage what Dennis said about coming to the meeting and supporting these positions, because it could be worse.
Dennis, into the mic. He can't hear you.
I didn't say anything.
Oh.
I said I'd encourage everyone to do what Dennis said and come to the meeting and voice your opinion. Don't just come and sit there, because they have to hear what the community wants. They have to hear what the board wants. We will try to advocate for it like we always do with slides and comments, and then it's up to the Board of Finance to make the final decision.
And just a reminder for people viewing at home and people in the audience, that presentation is at Town Hall on Tuesday, March 10th at 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 10th, 6 p.m.
Okay. Yep. Public comments?
So you have another agenda item before public comment.
Oh, sorry.
Just a minute, Mr. Stone.
Oh, Windsor Locks Middle School Management System. We need a vote on that,
You do need a
please.
motion and a vote, yes.
I would move that the board grant the superintendent or his designee the authority to purchase the building management system and the installation services for no more than $182,300 from Air Temp.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passed. Thank you.
And I have one correction. The Board of Finance presentation is 6:30, not 6 o'clock on March 10th. Thank you. 6:30, not 6 o'clock.
Okay, at this point, adjournment? Oh, public audience, yeah. Okay. You wanted to,
Hi, I'm Shannon Kushan, 51 Acorn. I emailed you guys all about the 4 o'clock original time frame, and I will say that the site is not always the easiest to find these meetings in what is in the description. I think you would have had a lot more parents earlier if we knew exactly. When I see Board of Ed on there, I don't really always pay attention, but when I find a detailed description about what's going to be talked about, it definitely brings our attention, and I think you'd have more parents involved. So I guess my suggestion would be for the Board of Finance meeting, have it on the PTO pages. Make those big Facebook blasts that you just did for this one with a description, so that way you have parents who can attend and speak. Just a recommendation to get more audience members. Thank you.
thank you.
Kevin Stone, 406 South Elm Street. So I have a couple things. The size of the increase, is any of that because we lost money from the state last year? As far as grants?
No, in terms of the increases, as you saw, well, it's a different amount now, but the original budget of 2.2 million increase, 78,000 of that was not related to obligations, either salary or other contracts. So to answer your question, no.
Okay. Secondly, I've heard it from a couple parents and residents. The way that the salary and benefits are listed, I think that when you're in the preliminary process like this, if that was a combined number, I think it would help, because there's a lot of people that are asking why we're paying health insurance and benefits, and a lot of people think that those are to retirees, not to current staff. And why are we shooting low? Not that I want to pay more in taxes, but I was there last year when there was a lot of long nights. Paul's not there anymore, so you guys don't even know how it's going to go. And you're automatically, like you're in the 11th hour, wanting to get money back. I don't get it. And you guys just all voted on that. Like, why would you capitulate before you even know what the plan is?
We came in, the superintendent came in initially with a 7.9%.
Yep, and I saw that, and I haven't been here, and I apologize for that, but why automatically go to half the amount before you've even brought it to the board?
The only thing I don't want to speak for the board, but just a couple points. One is the budget that I brought forth at the first workshop was 7.33% increase. And then at that workshop, the board, I think you saw in one of the slides, reinstated a few items that equated to approximately 118,000 and also requested reductions. So that was that comeback budget or revised budget of 4.9 was based on feedback from the board at that workshop.
And I get all that.
If I may say that, looking at history, if we've gone in with something that large, which we have in the past, it was, reduced to 0%.
Yeah, but Pat, aside from last year, you guys got nothing 3 years prior to that,
That's right.
correct?
That's right.
So,
So we're trying to show that during those years, we lost money and we really have to make it up. I mean, we can only go so far with no money.
right, and I get that, but unfortunately, you're going in at 4.9, which is the bare, well, 4.5 is the bare minimum. I'm gonna assume that next year is gonna be even worse, no? So,
It may be.
why?
Maybe with grants.
You know, why, grant, you don't know about the grants, so what, I come back to that point. You know, if you went to 7 and the board shot you down and said you gotta cut something, they already know, dealing with Mr. Parkhurst from last year, that he went over, above and beyond to get a thin budget. They're not gonna just assume that he's gonna come back with something that's overinflated, or at least present it to you and you guys wouldn't look at it. That's my point. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I'll speak into it, sorry. This comment is from Karen Novakowski of 8 Midland Road, and her comment is, it's more so a question. It's the budget lists custodians and a salary amount for each school. How many custodians are at each school?
Which document, Jesse, is she referring to?
I don't know. Karen, which document are you referring to? If you could clarify. She can hear me.
The only reason I'm asking is because in the full budget document, they're listed at each specific campus, so I don't know if she's looking at something different. I know Steve is back there somewhere. Overall number of custodians, Steve? 13, Jesse.
In their day and night shift.
13 where?
13 day and night shift.
13 day and night shift?
That's collectively. I don't know if her question is specific to a building, though.
And it may include housekeepers as well, her question. It's unclear.
No.
So
Housekeepers are
housekeepers are not included in
Custodians
those
are custodians.
Yeah,
line
no,
items?
they're not included
just
in that.
Custodians. I'm gonna ask her if that answers her question.
Anyone else?
My name is Chris Ledoux, 15 Dexter Road. I wanted to speak about the enrichment program. I've got an 8th grader who's been in the program for 2 years. I've had a chance firsthand to watch her grow both mentally, emotionally, and socially. She's been challenged in ways that the traditional classroom hasn't been able to provide. I have a 6th grader who's going to be eligible for enrichment next year. I'd like to see her with the same opportunities. I think the technology that's at our fingertips today is allowing us to make advances that most of us are having trouble keeping up with. And I think eliminating a STEM program, I think, sends the wrong message to the community and to the citizens of the community. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Clarification for Karen. The budget for each school has housekeepers and custodians. How many employees are at each school? I believe specifically the custodians and housekeepers.
It varies based off, it varies based off of the school size and the activity at that school. For example, the high school has the lion's share of staff, primarily because it's the biggest campus. It's also the campus that's most used 7 days a week. So, and then you also have a complement of housekeepers and custodians at the middle school, because it's the second largest campus and is also used, I believe, 6 days a week. So the elementary schools have fewer, but there's still, it really depends on what all is happening. The custodian housekeeper population, those folks not only are taking care of the buildings for our students, but they're also taking care of the environment for the park and rec, the extra activities that go on on these campuses. So it's not that they can just clean and then go. That's why there's a night and a day shift. I don't know if that answers the question without going through the entire roster. I mean, I would have to defer to Steve Mills because he knows his staff.
And
Otherwise, I'd
Specifically
have to pull it
asking
up.
for the number
Yeah,
of
I
how
think
many
I
are
think
employed.
what we would need to do is we could get back to her. If you get
Okay.
her contact
Sure.
information, we can get her that information
All right.
specifically.
Or we can just post it in the minutes. So.
Anything else? Jesse, any further comments from Zoom?
Let me check.
No? If not, I just want to remind everyone that the board meeting that was scheduled for Thursday night of this week has been canceled because of tonight.
And can I just make one comment? Because I had a chance to go to the varsity boys basketball senior night. And it was a great game. The guys never gave up, and they ended up winning, so it was wonderful.
Wasn't that the come from behind at halftime too? That game,
Mm.
weren't they losing? Yeah.
Last 4 minutes.
Any other comments from the board? If not,
I do. Is there a master list of employees? This is again Karen Novakowski.
I mean, with the staffing list that's in the blue packet, there is part of the handouts tonight.
But it's,
Okay.
it's just certified?
That's just certified,
yeah.
though.
It's just
It's a
certified.
staff, that was a request of the board,
It's
so that's in
specifically
the packet
okay,
for
yeah,
tonight, but
mhm.
it's only certified staff.
Only certified staff. Okay, and then it's there. She also made a comment that the staff directories are not up to date on the website. So
Point well taken. Thank you.
okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate your support.